I love cameras with viewfinders. There it is, it's out. I like cameras with viewfinders. I was bummed when I learned that the Panasonic S9 didn't have one, or the Ricoh GR4. They would be just perfect travel companions for me if it wasn't for them not having a viewfinder. The viewfinders are not crucial if you live in the UK, but if you travel to a place where there are actually sunny days, they come in handy. First of all, they let you see your photo when the back LCD is just not bright enough, but that is not all. They also help you stabilize the camera, and for me, they let you be more in the scene and reduce the visual noise. So I'm looking for cameras that are small, travel-friendly, and of course, have a viewfinder. I don't want to sacrifice image quality as well, so I want a larger sensor and interchangeable lenses for that sweet bokeh. Extra points for style. I need to warn you though, some of the cameras on the list don't have some of those features I mentioned, but I included them anyway because, as people say, they sparked joy in me. So let's start with Let's start with a camera that took me completely by surprise. Called by some the most hated Micro Four Thirds camera, the Panasonic Lumix G100. When released, it was aimed at vloggers and content creators, but it had quite unreliable video autofocus, 10-minute 4K video recording, and quite a heavy crop in basically most of the video recording modes. So the video side of this camera wasn't that great. But for photos on the go, it's a little marvel. It's very compact, has a decent viewfinder, 20 megapixel Micro Four Thirds sensor inside, and it really delivers if you don't expect high video performance. But I've used much worse cameras for filming in my life. Oh, that's the Bluebell Railway ruining my shot. I was really surprised how much I enjoyed using this little G100. It's just a perfect travel companion with lots of modern tech inside and a vast choice of lenses to choose from. Bonus tip, go for the updated G100D, which has a better EVF. Oh, it closes the shutter. I really like it. Next up, a real legend from Panasonic. If their G100 was called the most hated Micro Four Thirds camera, I've heard this one called the best digital camera ever made, the Panasonic GM5. It's mind-blowingly tiny and cute, and has a 16 megapixel Micro Four Thirds sensor inside. Even though it's tiny, Panasonic managed to fit in an electronic viewfinder and quite a few physical controls on the body. Insane camera, I love it. I bought this one with my own hard-earned money and I'm keeping it, and that should tell you how much I like this camera. Just bear in mind, this camera was released in 2014, so some of its features are rather dated, like continuous AF or higher ISO performance. Also, the viewfinder is really small, so it's good for framing, not so much for precisely judging exposure or focus. But this camera has never failed me, and its fun factor is through the roof. And look at that. 2014. So these are quite rare and pricey. But if you don't insist on having a viewfinder, you can still get the Panasonic GM1. They are much easier to find, slightly cheaper, offer similar performance, and are so cute. If you think a 16 megapixel sensor from 2014 can't take good photos, have a look at these. Another camera that completely blew my mind, the Sony RX1R Mark II. It is the size of my hand, it has a 42 megapixels full-frame sensor inside, fixed 35 f2 lens, and look at that! It has a pop-up viewfinder. It is the size of a Nikon 1, more on that later, but it has a full-frame sensor inside. It's just perfect. Or maybe if it had some nice film simulations inside and a maybe more slightly retro design. Oh no, stop it. It's an amazing piece of gear, and unbelievable how great and how small it is. Just be prepared to wait until one is available and to pay premium for it. Sorry. But in terms of the image quality, the amount of detail, dynamic range and everything coming from those cameras, it's just unreal. You can't change lens on this one, but I liked it so much I just had to include it in the video. If you want to save some money, you can go for the first version of the RX1R, which doesn't have a viewfinder, but you can attach an external one. And if you absolutely don't want to save any money, you can buy the Sony RX1R Mark III, which has a 61 megapixel sensor inside. On the completely other side of the sensor size spectrum is my next contender, the Nikon One V1. It has a 1-inch type, 10 megapixel sensor and uses the Nikon One system lenses. Despite the tiny sensor, it is a surprisingly capable camera. The EVF is perfectly usable, it delivers decent image quality, and I really like the simplified menu system. The V1 sensor is roughly half the size of a Micro Four Thirds sensor, so it is still possible to achieve a slightly shallower depth of field, which is impossible with Pentax Q, the other tiny, cute and abandoned camera system, but never mind. I found these straight out of camera JPEGs coming from this V1 rather uninspiring, but the raw files are perfectly usable and you can still get great photos from this camera if you know how to work around its limitations. If you want something more modern, there is the Nikon One V3, which has an 18 megapixel sensor, but uses a detachable viewfinder. Speaking of detachable viewfinders, here I have a camera that I wasn't really expecting to like, but I did. The Olympus EPL8. Why did I pick this one instead any of the newer models? It's because it's the last from the EPL line that can take an external viewfinder. It's quite a pretty, slightly retro-looking camera and is great value for money. I know I'm breaking my own rule here with the additional viewfinder, but the beauty of it is that you can have it as a tiny travel-friendly camera or make it less pocketable, but with an EVF. And that's not everything. There are a few versions of the viewfinder. So you can go for the VF4, which is on the bigger side, but has great quality and the eye sensor built in. Or you can pick the VF3, which has lower quality and no eye sensor, but is much smaller and I think matches the camera body better. So a freedom of choice. Who doesn't like that? In terms of hard specs, the EPL8 has a 16 megapixel Micro Four Thirds stabilized sensor, a tilting screen and delivers great photos in most scenarios. Look at how I was able to recover highlights on this photo of Amy and Connor. Just bear in mind it was released in 2019, so autofocus or high ISO performance may not be up to today's standards. And now, after the Olympus, which had a high fun factor but maybe lacked in performance here and there, camera that has all the performance but a slightly lower fun factor. Sony a6300. I had to include it in the comparison, but I'm joking. It's just such a boringly perfect camera. Sony, give me some quirks. The a6300 is compact, has a large APS-C-sized 24 megapixel sensor, has an amazing autofocus, and you can choose from a vast variety of lenses, from travel-friendly zooms to a quirky f.9 lens. I found that marrying this technical marvel with a quirky lens was a way to go, but that's just my taste. You could say I'm allergic to well-exposed, sharp photos. I picked the a6300 as it has a great features to cost ratio, but you can always go up or down the a6000 line, whether to reduce cost or to have more advanced features like IBIS or better video. So again, points for Sony. Now, a camera that is in some aspects quite similar to the G100 I mentioned earlier, the Canon M50 Mark II. It is fairly small, has a decent viewfinder, and basically does similar things to the G100. but it has a larger APS-C size sensor inside and of course the much loved Canon colors. It is also similar to the G100 in that it has some decent video specs inside and could be a great content creation machine, but they are somehow impaired. For example, it doesn't have a sensor stabilization, or it can't film 4K, but only with a heavy crop. So again, like the G100, it's an amazing travel-friendly stills camera with optional video features. For stills though, this is a great compact piece of gear. It uses the discontinued EFM lens mount, which has pros and cons. On the plus side, those lenses can be found maybe slightly cheaper because the system is no more. On the negative side, the native lens choice for the EFM system is fairly limited, but you can still adapt the regular EF lenses to this camera. On a personal note, I somehow enjoyed using the G100 more. I'm not sure why, but if you're into Canon ecosystem, maybe have some EF lenses already, definitely go for the Canon.
I have an original M50 and I love it. I still use it now. It's like just got one lens. I've had it for years. It just stays in the cupboard and I use it all the time and I really like it.
And let's finish in the inexplicable fun factor and throw the rules out of the window territory. The Sigma FPL. It doesn't have a viewfinder, I hear you shouting. Now, there it is. The Quirky Queen, the Quirk camera. It's claimed to be the smallest full-frame digital camera ever made, and still there is a 60 megapixel sensor inside, face detect AF, and it can even record raw video if for some reason you need it in your travel camera. The EVF11 viewfinder makes it far less compact, but it gives you a choice exactly like with the Olympus EPL8. You can have it in its minimalistic version with no viewfinder and a small lens like this 18 to 40 millimeters, or you can attach the viewfinder and even a professional L-mount lens if you want. I've used it mostly with the Sigma 28 to 70 millimeters and I loved it. What I love about it is, most of all, the mind-blowing image quality and many color modes and aspect ratios to choose from. If you want, you can use the 21:9 aspect ratio, one of the color modes, and basically turn it into a digital Hasselblad X-Pan and have ready to publish JPEGs straight out of the camera. Like any other Sigma camera, it has many quirks. One that bothered me the most was that it's quite slow. I've used an SD card that's fast enough for recording high quality 4K 10-bit video, and still every time I took a photo, it took a few seconds to process and save it. So I imagine it could be a great tool for mindful landscape photography, not so much for fast-paced travel snapshots. So which camera would I choose? If I had money for only one camera and had to do some commercial work on it from time to time, I would go for the Sony a6300. If I already had a good primary camera, I'd go for the Panasonic GM5. I own a Sony a7 III and I still take this little Panasonic with me everywhere. It's just so fun and adorable. But if you want a slightly less cool camera, but still with a high fun factor and much better tech inside, go for the Panasonic G100 or the Canon M50. And finally, if money wasn't an issue, I would buy the Sony RX1R Mark II. It's just a marvel of technology and its full-frame sensor renders such beautiful images. It is amazing to think how small it is for what it can do. Or if, you know what, forget about it. I would buy each of the cameras I've just talked about. I really enjoyed using all of them and none of them really disappointed me with their image quality. I just love cameras with viewfinders. I love every kind of them. I just want to have them all, but I can't can't have every camera.
Jakub, do you like viewfinders?
I love viewfinders.